Good evening and welcome to Orient Live here in the E10 studio. The O's are looking to get back to winning ways in Richie Wellens' second game in charge, and we face the Vegans Forest Green Rovers away this evening out in rainy Gloucestershire, and I'm delighted to be joined by former O's striker Jabbo Abire and journalist Brendan Pitcher. And Brendan, it does feel like a big one tonight. Forest Green maybe not in the best of form, and hopefully a chance for Orient to take a scout from the league leaders and get their first win of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the ideal time to play Forest Green. They're winless in 6. They're in the poorest run of form they've had all season. Obviously, you're never going to go on an amazing run of form like they've been on all season. They're going to have a dip, and they're currently experiencing that dip. So hopefully Orient can take advantage of that in Richie Wellens' second game. I'm not sure he'll have had much more time on the training pitch, but hopefully he'll be able to implement a few more things, because the signs were sort of promising on Saturday. There were signs that things were starting to come together a little bit, and it seems like the more time he gets on the training pitch, the more impact he's going to have. And
despite their form, they're still quite far clear up the top of the table, sitting pretty in first. Do you think tonight's almost a far less pressure game than maybe our last 3 or 4, where we're playing teams who are still kind of in mid-table or trying to get out of relegation? Do you think that might play into factor tonight?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, you go to the league leaders and sometimes it's a bit more like, we've got nothing to lose, you know. If we get a result here, it's great, you know, and it can really catapult your season. But I think the pressure's slightly off, you could say, because you're not playing against teams in and around you where it's big pressure. It's like a double header of a game. So hopefully, you know, they'll be a bit more relaxed and they can implement sort of the new work Richie Wellens has done so far.
Well, we've forgotten what a win feels like, but hopefully tonight is the night, and let's take a look at the starting 11 that Richie Wellens has opted for in his second game in charge as Orient head coach. So in goal for Leyton Orient this evening, number 22, Lawrence Vigouroux, number 3, Connor Wood, number 6, Adam Thompson, 9, Harry Smith, the first change of the evening, number 14, Otis Khan, and the second, number 16, Aaron Drynan. Wearing the armband, number 19, Omar Beckles, 20, Ruel Sotiriou, number 26, Hector Cipriano, 34, Ethan Coleman, and 35, George Ray. And on the bench for the O's this evening, Sam Sargent, Paul Smith, Frank Nouble, Theo Archibald, Matt Young, Shad Oji, and Jordan Brown. So it is Paul Smith and Theo Archibald that drop out of the starting lineup in place of Otis Khan and Aaron Drynan for today's game against Forest Green Rovers. And are they changes that particularly surprised you? Do you think this might be a slightly different approach from Saturday's game against Hartlepool?
Yeah, I think Paul Smith is just a case of taking it easy with him. You don't want to give him too much game time. He's been out for a long time. We know his record of injuries this season, and you've got to be extra careful with him because we know how important he can be when he's fit. I think Aaron Drynan, him being fit again, is a big plus, and I'm really interested to see how that. We saw it was a 4-2-3-1 on Saturday. I'm interested to see how that 3 behind Harry Smith will line up today, because you've got Otis Khan, you've got Ruel Sotiriou, and you've got Aaron Drynan, and all of them could play in each of the 3 positions, whether that be right, left, or the number 10. So I'll be interested to see how it shapes up. I'd probably lean towards thinking maybe Otis Khan will play as a 10, but it could be anyway, and it could interchange throughout the game as well.
And Otis Khan is an interesting one because he's someone we haven't seen for a few games. He's had a knock. He's found himself out of the team. He was, under previous management, playing at right back. So what do you expect from him tonight? It's almost like a fresh beginning for him.
Yeah, it is really, you know, because he was playing in a sort of different position under the previous manager. It's almost like, go on, show me what you're about, get out there, and the shackles are off. So let's see what you're made of today. So I think he'll honour it and do quite well.
And that, as you said as well, there's that rotation that Wellens spoke about in his first interviews with the club as well. And with Ruel Sotiriou, he's starting his 4th game, which I think equals his record at the club, which is mad considering how long he's been in and around it. But he's got 2 goals in that time, and hopefully tonight can be another opportunity for him to get on the score sheet again and show Wellens why he needs to stay in this team and break that record of how many starts he's made.
Yeah, he's a player that has been in and around it for a long time now, but as you say, has never really had a consistent run of starts. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that at the minute. I think he's playing some of the best football he's played in an orange shirt. He looks really confident. He's kind of, his body language is really good. That's really impressive. He's always kind of smiling and happy. Sometimes he's looked a little bit laboured, especially at times earlier in the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do out there tonight. He's a player that, as we all know, can produce something out of nothing, and that's always what you need in kind of games like this, where it's going to be a tough opposition against a good defence. If Rules Interior can create something out of nothing, that could be the difference tonight.
And that's the attacking option is Jabbo, but a massive positive from Saturday's game against Hartlepool was that clean sheet. It was the first one since Port Vale here at home, just after he came back from that COVID break. That's a massive clean sheet to build on for Richie after his first game in charge. But do you think that might be tough to keep going against today's opposition? They're a good side. We all know what a good side they are.
Yeah, I mean, but as a football player, you want to be tested and you want to come up against the best. And today they're up against one of the best teams with a great arsenal of attacking quality. But you know, as defenders, you want a consistent back four. You want to know your partners. You want to know the person you're playing with and grow. And I think getting that draw on the weekend and keeping a clean sheet was just going to breed confidence for them.
And it would have done. You said there about a consistent back four. Another consistency from Saturday's game are those two in midfield of Ethan Cole and Hector Cipriano. Now, they're both young, but the more they can get game time together, that will be really good for the side. But do you worry there is maybe a little bit of lack experience in there, or how do they approach tonight's game?
I mean, people. If you're young enough, if you're good enough, it doesn't matter about the age and everything. And I think you get your experience by playing games. I think you've got Beckles that can be vocal to them and shout them to get in position and do the right things at times. And I think them two playing with each other, getting that partnership going, I think it's only going to help them in the games going forward.
And it does feel as though Welland is maybe trying to rediscover that solidity that went missing over the last 8 games, I think, where we didn't manage to keep a clean sheet or pick up any wins. And were you hopeful after the display on Saturday that we're heading in that direction?
Yeah, I think so. I think the like you say, the back four being settled now is massive. I think you've got two fairly they're all right going forward, but I think predominantly they're defensive fullbacks, and then you've got George Ray and Omar Beckles there who are very experienced centre backs at the level and have played a lot of games there. I think the interesting thing for me is how we progress with the ball from the back now, because I was seeing signs of it on Saturday in terms of Omar Beckles trying to bring the ball out and play with it, and that wasn't something that we saw much of him at all under the previous manager. So I'm interested to see how that progresses. I'm not sure whether that will happen tonight because it's against Forest Green. They're a very good side. You perhaps don't want to be playing too many risky passes, but I'll be interested to see if there's more of that from Omar Beckles tonight and in the coming weeks as well.
And on the topic of consistency then, Brendan, we've got to talk about the man in between the sticks. He's played every single minute this season, and maybe we've conceded a few goals, but it's not been his fault. And just how important is Lawrence Figure to this defence? Yeah,
absolutely. I think he still has a right to call himself one of, if not the best keeper in League Two. We're seeing these saves here. They're phenomenal saves for the level, and he's such a consistent performer, someone that won't let you down. And Richie Wellens has alluded to that. He worked with him before at Swindon, and he singled him out in his interview with the club, first of all, saying that he's a player that can play much higher than League Two, and he's very talented at the level, and he's going to be extremely important for this team going forward.
It would be nice to not have to watch him make this many saves, though. Do you feel as though the defence maybe owe it to him to help him out a little bit?
Yeah, I think everyone knows the defence hasn't played great recently, but hopefully that will change soon. And the other things we're seeing from this game, from these clips about Lawrence Figueroa's game, is his distribution. It's so rare for a keeper at this level to be that good with his feet. And it's almost like Premier League quality distribution some of the time. And he's one of the only keepers capable at this level, I think, of getting assists. And that's something he's proven in recent seasons.
And, well, of course, it is the second time now that Orient played Forest Green Rovers this season. It was a draw last time out here at the Brer Group Stadium, and hopefully the O's can go one better this evening. But let's remind ourselves of how that game played out on a Tuesday night under the lights. Hopefully the O's can go one better this evening, this time out. But let's take a look and see what Forest Green Rovers side is going to be turning up for their home fixture this evening. So in goal for Forest Green Rovers is number 1, Luke McGee. Number 2, Kane Wilson. Number 4, Dan Sweeney. 6, Bailey Cargill. Number 7, Ben Stevenson. 8, Abu Adams. Number 9, Matty Stevens. Number 11, Nicky Cadden. Wearing the armband, number 14, Jamil Matt. Number 15, Jordan Moore-Taylor. And finally, number 21, Regan Hendry. And on the bench for them this evening is Thomas, Aitchison, Allen, Young, Diallo, McAteer and March. Now, we've spoken about what form they are in, Brendan, but what names on that team sheet really jump out for you? They've clearly got some quality players, but what are the ones that you'd look out for tonight?
Yeah, there's a lot of quality players in that lineup. You've got Jamil Matt, Matty Stevens is one of the league's top goal scorers. You've got Abu Adams, who Orient fans will know well. Nicky Cadden's a very good player. I could list the whole team and say they're all very good players, but the one for me is Kane Wilson. I think he's maybe certainly the player for me with the most potential in this division. I think he's only 20 years old, but he's managed to get 3 goals and 13 assists from right wing back. And we're seeing from the clips here, he's just such a threat going forward. His delivery's great. He arrives in the box and scores goals. He's a player with such potential that I think not the top 20 lads did a documentary on Sky Sports highlighting the most best under 21 players in the Football League, and he was the only player from League 2 to make it, so that shows how highly he's rated, and he's a player I think can go on and really do something special in his career and go on and play at a much higher level than League 2.
And so with what we're seeing there, Jabbo, obviously we've got Connor Wood, who you'd probably call an out-and-out full-back playing on our left-hand side of the fence. What do you think Richie's message will be to him this evening to try and keep him quiet? Or will it be more of a team effort to do that?
Yeah, I think you can't put the whole onus on him to try and keep him quiet, but as a team, they've got to really try and keep him quiet because he offers a massive attacking front down that side. And like you said, he's contributed so many goals and chances and stuff like that. So you've just got to try and be on him. Don't give him too much respect. Try and eat up the space in front of him so he can't sort of put the balls in and get that picture to pick someone out, and then and try and force him going back the other way. And
we've spoken about their form a lot, Jabbo, but to kind of paint the whole picture, they're 20th in the form table. They're only one place above us, which kind of says just what kind of form they are in. From their point of view, coming into tonight's game, and we're a team that they'd probably see as a scrapping for it, what do you think their approach will be, and how do you think their heads will be as they approach kickoff tonight?
Well, I definitely think they'll be thinking it's a game that they can change their fortunes and get back into winning ways. So, I think both teams will be thinking this. From Orient's point of view, it's a great game. It's a great time to be playing Forest Green. Forest Green are going to be thinking, well, if there's no time to get back to winning ways is against Orient. So, but I think they're gonna go in there positive, shaking everyone up. Come on, boys, it's our time again, and they're going to be on Orient from the start.
Do you think that's almost for Orient? That's almost a good way for our players to think and look at them, and for them to be expecting to beat us. Do you think that's almost a good thing for us? It's strangely worded, this question,
but
I
get you mean.
It's a good one from Orient's perspective for our players.
Yeah, definitely. They're gonna go for it. I think the first 10-15 minutes they're gonna come out flying out the traps, and then they're going to be vulnerable, and they're vulnerable at the moment because they're just not in the form they were in. And when I've been in that position before, and we've been flying in the league, and we've lost a couple of games, and all of a sudden start looking around at each other, thinking, "Whoa, that pass used to get there, suddenly isn't," and then you start looking at your partner or your midfielder, and you start thinking, "Oh, play me the ball," and you start questioning each other. So if Orient can find those gaps and then hit those vulnerability parts of Forest Green's play, then I think it could be an interesting game.
And with both sides desperate for those 3 points, though, do you think it might be a tight, cagey affair, and or what way do you see it going?
I think from our point of view, from Orient's point of view, I think we can't afford to show them the respect that many teams have probably shown them in the past. They're in on a bit of a iffy run compared to what they've done the first half of the season, and at the same time you can't go gun-ho either, but as long as we're on the front foot, we're in their face at the start, quieten the crowd, don't let them get going, I think we can stay in the game and take it from there and build into it.
Jabo says you don't want to go gung-ho, but would you like to see that, Brendan? It's been so long without a win, and does tonight feel like just such a good opportunity to kind of go gung-ho and get it?
I think you'd be very brave to do that against this Forest Green side. They're the top scorers in the league for a reason. I think it is a case of trying to frustrate them, trying to maybe sit back a little bit, and like Jabo says, the nerves will come into play. Look, this Forest Green side, they might have a new manager this season, Rob Edwards, instead of Mark Cooper, but for the last 2-3 seasons, they've perhaps not been as far clear as they are this season, but they've been up in around those automatic places and have fallen away late on. So it's a lot of the same squads. They'll be thinking, oh no, not again. Is this happening again? Are we going to fall out of contention? And if you can keep playing on those doubts and like Joe says, keep the crowd quiet for as long as possible and keep the game maybe at 0-0, try and make it cagey and the longer the game goes on, it's only going to favour Orient because Forest Green fans will be frustrated. They've gone 6 games without a win, despite earlier in the season where they were picking up wins all over the place. So it's going to be an interesting one, and if Orient can execute that game plan, it could be a successful night.
And it's interesting what Brendan says there about it being the same group of players. It's the same club that in years gone by have had a fantastic 2/3 of the season, then lost it all completely. I mean, you look at clubs in the top flight, we won't know many names, but it does almost feel like that's in their DNA. Do you think that will come into either side's thinking at all tonight of knowing that the situation that Forest Green Rovers are in?
100%, and I think it like Brendan was saying there, it will favour Orient the longer the game goes on. It will be in the back of your mind, especially someone like Jamel Matt, who's been there for a few seasons now. It's almost squeaky bum time for them. They're going to start thinking, oh, we ain't won, and then if they're attacking them and they're on the front foot from the start, they will be worried, and the crowd will feel it too, and the atmosphere, and that's what today we want to create against them.
It would be very nice to do that indeed. Now, of course, don't forget, if you're watching along live on our YouTube stream, you can watch tonight's game. That's for all fans, UK and international. And you can head over to the website that is on screen now to pick up your match pass or your audio pass if you'd like to listen along. But now, let's hear from the main man himself, Richie Wellens.
Again, it's going to be quite limited time on the training ground with your players, and probably going to be a common theme for this month. So what's your focus in the time that you do have?
I think the biggest thing is keeping them fresh mentally, physically. I think I've never known 4 Tuesday away games in a month before, and all of that quite considerable distance being covered. So we want them to have a structure to work from, but we also want them to have a freedom to play as well. So I think that in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's about keeping the minds fresh, and every time that they come to step on the pitch, that they feel physically ready to go.
Strikers Harry Smith, Aaron Drynan, both on 13 goals and have been for some time. So without a goal at the moment, as a manager, how do you help kind of break that duck?
Well, again, it's them believing in themselves, getting the right areas, making the right runs, and if they make the right runs, the chances will come. I've seen them in training, the finishing is really good. And again, listen, what's gone on in the last is irrespective, so we want to make sure that going forward they have confidence. I like Drynan, he does everything at a real tempo, he sprints a lot in the game, and obviously Harry Smith's a big lad. At times some of the balls up to him are terrible. You think you've got a big man up there, you want to hit his head, when at times you can hit his chest. It's easier for him to deal with. We've worked a little bit in working at angles, so when he's coming off from the sides rather than receiving straight long balls all the time. We want to play, but at times, especially when you go away to Hartlepool and the pitch is really, really tough to deal with tight, intricate football, then there's going to be times that we need to hit him, but we need to hit him in the right areas.
Forest Green Rovers, top of the league, but having a bit of a wobble at the moment. No doubt still going to be a tough test though.
I said they're having a bit of wobble. He was never going to go through the season winning every single week. The record up until about 6 or 7 games was fantastic. But I've been in their position. You have injuries, you pick up suspensions, and you're going to have at some time a loss of form. What I will say is they've got some good players, and the manager there has done a tremendous job in his first job. But I do see vulnerabilities that they've got. So it's up to us to turn up, have the right attitude, and try and take advantage of what's happening at their football club at the moment.
In terms of your squad, I know we were speaking Saturday about the availability of maybe Darren Prattley. Is that one you can give an update on?
Again, he's only returned to training today, so he's just done a light session with the physios and the fitness coaches. In terms of making tomorrow's squad, he won't be available. We've just got to be careful with the COVID stuff. But for Rochdale, he'll be back in the squad.
How well does that man speak? And Brendan, it's been 2 away games and 2 tough ones as well. Tonight probably tougher than Saturdays. And he hasn't been dealt a very kind hand for the start of his Orient career, but how do you think he'll be relishing this challenge?
Yeah, like you say, it is tough for him. He's a manager who will want to get his ideals and implement his tactics across, and he's been given two pretty long away days, and then you look at the rest of the calendar, that there isn't much time for the time off on the training ground either. There's a lot of Tuesday away games coming up, but he's a manager who will be pragmatic and will know that that's the case, and will know how to adapt slightly. It's not going to be free-flowing Wellens ball from the off. It's going to take a little while, and they're going to have to adapt to that. And like I said, be a bit more pragmatic. To focus on the defence first, because that's the easy part. I think he said they've been trying to implement the pressing style first, which defending from the front basically, isn't it? And I think you've got players like Aaron Dryden in there today who will suit that perhaps more than other players, and I'm interested to see how this team develops as it goes on, because I really do think the further it goes on the more interesting this team is going to look, and I'm interested to see how Richie Wellens can get his ideals across.
And on the subject of that pressing then, just while you mention it, obviously Aaron Dryden, we've seen he does work his socks off. We know Ruel Satiri will run and give it his all. We haven't really seen much of that from Otis Khan, mainly because he hasn't played in a position to do so. But do you think maybe that front three will work well in that regard tonight?
Yeah, that's like I mentioned earlier. I'm interested to see how that three are going to line up, because you'd say if you're playing pressing from the front, then normally it's the two wingers who will do more of the work, and the number 10 will still do a bit of work, but won't be as pressing from the front. And so I'm interested to see how he lines up in there. But I will say we haven't really seen it from Otis Khan, because he's been playing right back or right wing back. We haven't really seen him in that kind of more offensive role, and I'm interested to see if he can bring that. I'm sure he can, because he's a player who's played in some very good teams before at League 2 level, so I'm sure he will know his job and know what to do and know how to press.
It's interesting though, Jabba, because what's it like from a player's point of view when you've been on the run that we've been on, a new manager comes in, yes, there's the cliche of the manager bounce, but you've suddenly got a new boss telling you to press for 90 minutes and to change your game style and to do this and do that, and how hard can that be from a player's point of view to just overnight start to change your whole mindset? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be quite refreshing, because you know you've been playing a certain way previously, and you might have not got out of the gears you wanted to be in, and suddenly you've got an opportunity to maybe express yourself. The shackles are off. It's almost like I've never played the position before. I've got nothing to lose, but I've got to prove to the manager that I'm worthy of a shirt, and I'm going to go out there and earn it. So at the same time, I would go with the attitude, and I think he would go out with the attitude that, okay, I'd be given an opportunity, more in a more attacking role. I'm gonna go grab it. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna do what the manager says and add the quality I have that I've shown out on the wing centrally. And can I get some goals? I think he might surprise us.
And do you think we've said about how it's been a tough start for Richie with those long travels on the road? Could tonight be a good block again to build on from Saturday's game against Hartlepool, to then build for maybe a slightly easier on paper fixture here in E10? Would a solid 0-0 almost be? Would you snap his hand off of that right now?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to build, isn't it? Really and truly, we're trying to build right now, and I think as long as you're seeing patterns on the pitch, you're seeing ideals being implemented, and performances improving and going in that direction, getting a point, especially away to a top side like this, will be seen more as a positive. And then, like Brendan was saying, I think as time goes on and we get more time on the training ground, you'll see his ideals, because Richie Wellens was a very good player, intricate passes, and I think that philosophy, his character will come and shine onto the Orient team. But I think in the meantime, because there's so many games, I think you have to be pragmatic, and you have to sort of encourage the players to be positive, to go out there and be up for it, because they're travelling a lot. You know, and I think it's getting those positives, those mindsets are more important than maybe the tactical side of the football that we'll see eventually in the future.
And as Jared says about the amount of games, is it almost they need to do their work in the games? And we are playing Saturday, Tuesday for I think for the rest of the month now. And is it a case of Richie just trying to have to get his ideas across while they're on the pitch?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I think he will have learnt a lot from Saturday. I think he'll have tweaked and watched that game back and seen what worked and perhaps what didn't. And hopefully we'll see what changes here. And there will be little tweaks here and there. He won't, like you said, he won't have much time on the training ground. But I do expect there to be little tweaks every game until eventually, I expect probably nearer towards the end of the season, we'll see exactly what a Richie Wellens team looks like.
And we can see the players are ready to come out soon, Jabbo. But if you were there on this Tuesday night on an away trip, what would be the things going through your mind now as you wait to step out on the pitch and try and pick up your first 3 points of the calendar year?
I'll be on it and I'll be up for it. I often enjoyed playing against like the team that's flying. If we were the team underneath, I'd be like, yep, let's go show these. They're going to think we're not up for it, we're not about it. Let's go get amongst it. So I'll be up for it. I'm sure the boys are up for it. The pressure is slightly off because sometimes people write you are thinking you're not going to maybe get anything here, so you go and express yourself, and hopefully I do that today. Well,
here come the boys in red, led out by Omar Beckles. And it is time now, of course, to pass over to our very confident team of Matt Hiscock, and Dave Victor.